Hi, welcome to Needing a Meeting. My name is Carol. I'm your host today, and I'm here with Stasia, aka Plant Freak. And y'all have been busy at it, having a meeting. Ben, watch out for those. Watch out for those lizard people. Hi, Kristen. Good to see you again. Hi, Seventh Son. Hi, Steve. Hi, a Rolling Stone. Sue. And who else we got here? Pup Grimmer. Hello. How are you? Am I missing anybody?
I don't think so, but my chat comes up when I put up the screen.
Hi, Misha. Good to see you. All righty. Well, so how are you?
I'm all right. Think I'm coming down with something, but we got a foot of snow last night and today, so kind of expected. And I think I might have pushed myself to be social yesterday and go out, but not like today. I'm just drained. Absolutely. It's the first time I've really gone out in 3 months. It's been court and it's been figuring that stuff out. So yeah, I think it was just more than I wanted.
Did you at least get to have a little bit of fun while you were
I
socializing?
enjoyed myself. Yes, I
Good.
enjoyed myself. But the repercussion today of exhaustion is almost like, was it worth it?
All those
But
tourists cover with
all in all, it's pretty good.
Good. Good. How's have you got Wee Man back yet?
Tomorrow, he didn't call last night, which is the first night he hasn't called. So that's maybe another reason why I'm a bit drained. I didn't really think about that. But, he's enjoying himself then. He's not worried if he's not calling. So I'm trying to look at it that way.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah. And then I started a show last night, so I've been binge watching that now.
oh, what are you watching?
Transplant. It's a Canadian Netflix show.
Yes. Yes. I feel like I've seen that. Remind me.
It's an Arabic Syrian doctor that comes to Canada, gets a job at a North York hospital. And then I'm on season 2, and basically it's like ER or Grey's Anatomy, just Canadian-based.
Okay. Yeah, that was a network show.
Yes.
Okay.
It was like, oh, it's Canadian. Why not?
Yeah. Is this coming week some of your court dates?
This coming week, tomorrow is child services. Tuesday is child services. And then Thursday is court. And then the following Tuesday is court. So it's everything and all of this stress that I've been trying to just like put aside because it was over the holidays. It's here now.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a little bit more in my face, and I've been writing my notes. They're done. I finished them today in like a good copy. I had a rough copy done, but into like a good copy. And then I was like, you know what? I'll make sure that I bring my notebooks as well, so that if they ask specifically to see my entry, it's there. I'm not going, oh, I didn't bring it with me. Like I'm trying to cover all of my bases. Yeah, like saving hope.
Right on.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So
all of the emotion right now, and I'm doing my best to distract myself from it because I literally can't do anything until tomorrow.
Yeah.
But tomorrow is 3 different appointments. A lawyer appointment in the morning, and then in the afternoon, child services, and closer to the evening is another lawyer appointment. And all of that's to prepare for Thursday.
Okay.
And then Tuesday morning is child services, like their full decision.
Oh, okay. And what are they deciding exactly?
They're giving their input on where Rowan is best, essentially.
Okay.
So that's why them not wanting to know about the visits and planning this right after the holidays when they get back. It's like, where are you going to really see all of the information? Where is the time to intake the information? But I have to trust that there's a system, and I have to trust that they're working that system, and just I know my lawyers are good, and I'm just gonna kind of trust in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mischief says, Plant Freak, I hope you have good news to tell us soon. You have done everything you could possibly do. So yeah.
Yes.
And oh man, I thought I had the Sunday scaries just about work. That's a lot, says Kristen Melinda. Yeah.
I've had a couple of people tell me that, and it's like, you know what? I don't feel that. And it's that's a little bit concerning to me, is that it's like I'm not feeling like it's a lot.
Well, you've been preparing. You
Yeah.
probably would be more so if you had not been, if you'd been just out there lost, not knowing what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, I can say, like, I can see that it's a lot. It's just, hi. And I can see that it's a lot. I also feel like my brain is still pushing it away a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Like I can't know anything until tomorrow anyway. So it's like I think that's why I've been binging a show, because I literally can't do anything about it yet.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, I was wondering how you guys would feel about continuing on with that Dr. Romani and Dr. Lalich conversation about what is a cult.
Yeah.
I've really been processing a lot of stuff this weekend
Okay.
over the cult that I was in. And woo, it's ugly,
Yeah.
y'all. It's ugly. I wish it weren't, but it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's watch it.
Okay.
I'm happy to do it. Yeah.
Especially if it's helpful. Yeah.
You know, the way that she's putting it in personal experience and somewhat clinical terms. Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. Good.
All
Okay.
right.
Yeah. Well, in
What
clinical
did-
terms are helpful too when you're processing something, because you know it's real and this isn't just like made up in your head. Like
Yeah.
it's a real thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is What is a Cult with Dr. Janja Lalich, and it's on Dr. Romani's channel. A lot of us know about her. Hi, Anne. Good to see you.
Hey everybody. I see Sarah, Mischief, Kristen, hello.
Some of you may
And Ben.
Some of you may recognize Dr. Romani. She does a lot of work on helping people overcome narcissistic relationships and narcissistic abuse. And this is just that sort of relationship on a larger scale and controlling more people. Yeah. Okay. So we've been through her explaining her own experience in a political cult, which was just inhumane, you know, and how they operate. And then I haven't listened to the rest of it, so we'll all be learning together. Are you okay with this subject, Rebecca?
Yes, I am actually just going to mute myself and eat my orange because I'm really hungry and I realized I hadn't eaten for like,
Okay.
I don't know, 5 hours. So this is a little
okay.
snack.
Yeah. Hi, Rebecca. Oh, you're Rebecca. Hi, one with Cat's shell.
Hi, Shell.
So we're no Funyuns? Asks Ben. Nacho cheese fries Turner. All right, so here we go.
Oh, those nacho cheese fries sounds really good right now.
Yeah, they do. All righty, so we're gonna soldier on with this video. It's a long one. I chose a really long one to get through, but it'll give us a few Sundays here and there. I like to deal with cult stuff on Sundays because the cult that I was in met on Sundays, and So sometimes Sundays can be a tricky day for me. It's been I have longer and longer periods where they're not,
Mhm.
but yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
I went, "Hey,
You're in a
hi, Henry."
relationship with a person.
Yeah.
Everyone's thinking, oh, you're so lucky, you're part of something, or you're part of this relationship. But everything that you're sharing here, the one you started with was an interesting one to me. You have to accept that you've been had, right? And I understand that to be the subjective experience of a survivor, whether in a cult system, in a narcissistic relationship. From my seat as a therapist, I think that when we've been had, we feel foolish. Like we've been played, right? Like somebody just did a street con on us. But in fact, what had happened was all the healthy functioning parts of yourself, a desire to belong, a commitment to a cause, a drawing to like-minded people, healthy parts of yourself were drawn into something. Right? In a relationship, it might be that you saw something in this person, that you believed in love, that you wanted to build a life with them, healthy stuff. And then to find out that, in fact, that's not what the social context on their side. It does feel like being had, but it's not really that you were foolish. It wasn't that you were foolish and got played by a street con because you rolled up to a game of 3-card Monte. It's more that you had gone in with all the best parts of you and ran into something harmful. Is that self-forgiveness in that process? This was the best of you. You were taken advantage of, and that exploitativeness is an important part of.
And that's the thing too. I was in my 30s when I got into this. And those could have been like really, really good years, and I don't get them back. I don't get that youth and vibrance that I had in my 30s back in the 30s context. It's not that I can't get vibrance, but the youthful part of that, in that innocence, yeah. Wanting so much to believe that we were doing something good. And I did with wholeheartedly for a while.
Yeah.
Psychoeducation on what happens to anyone in these systems.
I mean, I get asked all the time, is there a certain personality type who joins a cult? And I'm like, you know what? If there's a common denominator, it's idealism. It's people who want a better world, a better self, a better family, a better belief, spiritual belief, whatever. But it's not because people, as I say, are stupid, weird, crazy, lazy. That's not who cult members want. I mean, cult leaders want. And so you have to accept that you did it and went along with it. You also have to realize that there was nothing wrong with you. Like this happens to everybody. It can happen to anybody. And the forgiveness bit is so much more about self-forgiveness, which is one of the courses we taught, forgiveness of self. I always say, you don't have to forgive the cult leader. Lord knows. I mean, there's all this sort of mindfulness, woo-woo stuff. You don't ever have to forgive the person who abused you. Who you have to forgive in this context is yourself. And deepen that understanding, because they don't deserve bupkis.
No, they don't deserve bupkis. They sure as hell don't deserve forgiveness. I think to me, forgiveness is a rather divine state, and it implies a meaningful change when someone receives that forgiveness, and that a lot of people put forgiveness of other ahead of forgiveness. That, again, you brought the best of yourself, but you just said something so interesting. I want to come back to, which cult leaders, cult groups don't want lazy and crazy. Talk more about that, because you're right. The trope is of the lost who there's something off about them. That's why they get drawn into this, and they got nothing else going on. You're actually saying it's quite different. Why is that? And what's that about? That they don't want lazy and crazy.
It's because they want type personalities. They want people who are going to function, who are going to help raise money, who are going to recruit, who are going to bring content, to lend legitimacy, to run the business, run the internal organization, set up the infrastructure. Cult leaders are pretty lazy. They don't do very much except give orders and bask in their whateverness. So they need people around them who can perform. And, you know, I always say, cult's not there to take care of you. You're there to take care of the cult leader and the cult. So, I mean, I know in our case, if we had someone who joined, you know, as say a volunteer or general member, and they seemed a little fragile or maybe had too much sickness, we got rid of them. We were like, no, this isn't right for you. Bye-bye. We didn't want that. And the Unification Church used to do that. You know, when people breakdowns, they would just dump them.
You know, people would come to our church, you know, believing that the pastor, you know, was anointed or whatever you call it with healing powers, but they never stuck around. We did not have sick people or you know, in any way infirmed in our church. We did not.
Wow.
I just now realized that.
Wow.
And Rebecca said people around them who want to do good, and they use that to manipulate people into doing what they want the person to do. Yeah. Yeah. And Sarah
tell you why you need to do. At least that's the group that I was born and raised into was does have older, more potentially infirm people, but that's after they've used them up.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
numbers, people have done and given everything and done everything they've ever asked. And so sorry, I completely just lost the thought in my head, but yeah, right now in the group that I was raised in, the majority of people are really young kids or really old because the internet's there and people can research. And they don't want people who can research, but they want your money.
Yeah.
So they want someone who's capable of working and giving as much as possible to them.
Cults want productive people and people in need, take away from the authoritarian system. Yeah. We did absolutely nothing much for the communities around us. For a little while, we were busing in inner city kids and having a Sunday morning camp for them, but it was just to hopefully get some more cult members. When it wasn't working, when they weren't coming to services outside of the camp, guess what? The buses stopped going into the barrio. So cults want productive people. Did I read this already? People in need, take away from the authoritarian system. Yeah, I did. All right. Shall we continue?
In front of a mental hospital and drive away. I mean, there's no caring for you in a cult. And of course they want people with money. So we saw that in the NXIVM case, right? You know, or celebrities, you know, people who are going to, you know, oh, let's go coerce the Dalai Lama into meeting with us. Let's give him $1 million, you know, and he can wrap a cloth around Ranieri.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
No, absolutely. Exactly. No, it really is. And I think that, you know, it's so funny you say that you'd call leaders are actually the ones who are lazy. I hear more that it's entitlement, right? They're entitled to having everything done to them. So or for them or with them or as they wish. And so
I just remembered something. I was for some reason I was thinking about my brother, and I emailed the pastor and asked him if he thought it was possible for narcissism to be prayed out of a person, if they could possibly overcome it and not be that. Guess what I got in response? Crickets.
Crickets. Yeah.
Nothing. Nada.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, do narcissists, are they self-aware enough to know they're narcissists?
No,
You,
no, not typically.
you know?
Not unless they get something out of it, like supply, like HG Tutor on YouTube. He's a psychopathic narcissist. Um, he gets supply out of it, but no, they don't.
Sorry,
Nope.
guys, I couldn't let my get hit by a car while we were doing this. I apologize.
No, you're okay.
HD Tutor.
Where he is, actually diagnosed as a psychopath. He's getting something off of being on YouTube. He is getting supply. He's getting adoration.
Yeah,
So when he
that makes
comes on
sense.
and he is like, I'm a psychopathic narcissist, let me help you. Even though he says he's not getting any supply off of you, he really is. But the normal person who is diagnosed as narcissistic, no, they don't. They're not self-aware enough. Um,
Yeah.
I think now narcissistic, tendencies are different than diagnosed narcissism. So if you've got tendencies, you could be self-aware because you're not diagnosed as such, so you could be aware and continue to do it anyway. But
Yeah.
overall, no, they're not going to be that aware. They're incapable of that. They're incapable of the emotion, which is why narcissists, um, you tell a narcissist how to treat you. That's why they ask you all those questions, like, what do you like, and what's this, and what's that? And you'll notice that they mimic a lot of emotion and responses and things like that, because it's like that piece of them is missing. So
I heard narcissists,
Ben,
my therapist has said
go
that narcissists generally don't seek therapy because they don't think there's anything wrong. So
No.
they're usually
Yeah.
not diagnosed narcissistic.
Right.
Gotcha.
You
Right.
can tell
Yeah.
based on their behavior that they're probably a narcissist, but most of them won't. Apparently, my therapist says won't go
Oh
in.
my God, pup groomer.
True.
My mother admits to her tendencies, but still doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's
Well,
rough.
and again, it's because they're missing that part. It's kind of like that little carrying piece of the puzzle isn't there on some level because they are so. Let me speak from what I know to be true. I don't want to say anything about anybody's mom's parents, friends, boyfriend, whatever. But the narcissist I dealt with, um, it's it's just not there. They're just above that. They're entitled, they're better than you, they're above it. You know, only if they get something out of it would they ever go. So if they were taking you to therapy to prove you were crazy, they'll go all day long.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
you're going to say get marriage counseling, they're not going to show up because you know.
Oh, mine did. My first husband absolutely did. And you know what? Both he and the therapist just pummeled me with, what a piece of shit I was throughout the whole session.
Yeah. Well,
So
and
I didn't show up to the next
he was
one.
getting something from that though. That was his supply. That was a way for
Yep.
him to further attack you. And your narcissist or your therapist was not wise enough to cotton on to what he was doing to protect you, which is the therapist's job.
I don't know. They seem like two birds of a feather. It's like, why don't you two go get married? You guys are two peas in a little pod there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe
Ben
your
says they
old
wouldn't use
therapist was. Maybe they were the same and were getting something out of it and getting off on it.
It sure felt that way. Ben says they wouldn't use that term to refer to themselves, and Mischief says cults prey on vulnerability, building people up, then manipulating them to hand over their money. Also, their time, their labor, their talents.
Yes.
Whatever you got, they want.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my mother's case, she knows, but would never admit anything wrong with her. It's everybody else's fault. That was my brother too, Henny. They are perfect, smart, and entitled. Yep.
Mhm.
Exactly it. Ted Bundy, for example, studied people for reactions, says Ben. And that is the most you would get from one
Yeah.
to pup groomer. Yeah.
I was going to say, in my
So,
experience, they get people who are vulnerable. So it could be, you just found out you had some illness, and then they get you by giving you this lie, and then get you in, love bomb you in, but then they take.
they take and take and take and take and take and take and take. Yep.
Yeah.
Psychopaths are always narcissists, but not all our narcissists are psychopaths. It's one of the few absolutes in psychology, says Ben. Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yes, and let's not forget Confess. Yeah, says Henning. I don't think I have ever encountered a narcissist, thankfully. You are one lucky person, Lene, because you will never be the same if you encounter one that ropes you in.
Mhm.
You don't get to go back to being who you were. And then she has told me flat out, says Pup Groomer, that she wants outsiders to look at her as the perfect mother and grandmother, and she'll do whatever it takes to make it look that way. Wow. Interesting.
My ex-landlady's narcissistic tendencies, but you wouldn't know it initially. And she doesn't project that. It's once she gets you in that then you see. And the more people she lost, the smaller her network came. That's when I saw more of it. There was less people for her to take it out on. And so I started to see far more of what was really there.
Yeah. 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 Because, she was going to get as much supply off of you, one of her remaining ones.
And then I moved.
Sources. Yeah.
Well, I planned on moving prior to that, but I did all the things you do in an abusive relationship. You don't make waves, you survive. And I got healthy enough in the long COVID to be able to do the move. And then as soon as I got ready to move, I knew I was out, and I'm like, I don't have to pretend anymore. I'm not putting any energy. And that's when it really turned up several notches.
Yeah. 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 You really
because I wasn't willing to act like I cared.
Yeah. And some of them, it makes them crazy, I guess. I don't know. Sarah Matthews says, I've had that feeling of experience in a counselor's office. It's one reason why I dislike group counseling now. Okay. Yeah, work in a crowd. Lene, you may have their extremely attractive and convincing. You may have. They are extremely attractive and convincing, and they're not going to just come right out and show who they are at the get-go.
No, it takes a while. It's not, I mean, other people around you might see it, but it's going to take a while for you to see it. Probably like a cult. It's going to take a while for you to understand what you're really in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pup Groomer 20 says, Henny says to Pup Groomer, I understand my mother said she was and she had terrible kids. They are never wrong and never remember things. Yeah, things that they did. Kristen Melissa, I have had people say my ex sounds like a narcissist, but I don't know. Drugs and bipolar disorder really clouded the picture. Yeah. Being an addict can make someone present as a narcissist because, it's the most self-absorbing thing that you can engage in. Addiction, substance abuse specifically. And I've been called every name in the book, but a white woman. Everything is my fault. pup groomer says to Henny. Well, if I encounter any, then I divorced all 3 of them. My cult is alcohol, I guess, says Lene. CK says delusions of grandeur. And you are so lucky, Lene, for having not encountered a narcissist. Mischief says, I have people in my life who truly believe they are perfect parents, friends, work colleagues. I just agree with them, saving me the time and energy. And CK, hi, how are you? And yeah. So I'm gonna get back with the video unless somebody has something else.
Oh, good.
Okay. Uh-oh, come on now. Here we go.
People are entitled, almost by definition, they're lazy because they're not actually attending to the things that need to get done, but they rubric of, I shouldn't have to be one who does this. I'm too important. I'm too divine. I'm too this.
It's, yeah. Right. It's the right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we as members rationalize that. Like I used to literally say to myself, well, we have Stalin in our lineage, and at least we have yet. So you rationalize along the way.
Yes.
And this is my, this is my metaphor about the shelf. When you asked what was the breaking point, I think everybody who's in a cult, and I would imagine in a narcissistic relationship, you have doubts, but you have no way to those doubts, right? Because you'll be punished in some way. So you store things on this shelf in the back of your head, right? And then one day, one thing too much happens, and the shelf breaks. My mother died. And then you don't necessarily know it's a cult or evil narcissist, but there's something wrong. And then you start thinking about getting, and then how and when you're able to get out, again, is a very specific situation depending on the cult, the boyfriend, the whatever. Easier or harder depending on the context of that.
I love that metaphor of the shelf breaking. Some people call it sort of a rock bottom. It is death, and one day, and it could actually be relatively, in your case, it was not consequential at all. It was the absence, but it could be inconsequential. And that is the thing, that accumulation and that idea. And I think people can see that, the yawning bookshelf, that you put the one more book and boom, what just happened? I just put one book on it. And so I love that metaphor because I think that actually lines in, though, it's interestingly a little bit, there's a beautiful complementarity to your work and the work of Dr. Jennifer Fried, in the sense of, she talks about this concept of betrayal blindness, seeing the betrayal, but not encoding it and not processing it. So it's not like you're in denial, and it's not like you're delusional. You just don't register it in a way, in essence, that would break the shelf. But one day, those betrayals pile up in a way that the whole system busts. Now things become more clear, but there's a danger in seeing it for all the reasons you say. So there's a real complementarity there. But I want to go back to recovery, because if you weren't allowed to not only grieve major losses, in your case, the loss of your mother, but also in the group you were in, and in all narcissistic relationships, you also have to curtail your expression of emotion. If you express emotion, you will gaslight it or shame, belittled, or be painted as somebody who is dysregulated. And your emotion is never going to be with, mirrored, or received with compassion. So people in narcissistic relationships really have themselves hemmed in to a relatively restricted emotional expression. And when I work with these clients in therapy, they'll almost 99% of the time apologize for crying. I'm so sorry, I'm crying. I'm like, that's what happens in here. This is purpose built for crying. And that's what happened to you in a cult. It's hard to learn how to emote.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. I mean, you'll find, not only, I always say to employers, the best people
I could not cry for a really long time when I got out of the cult. I knew I needed
I cry sporadically. Like if you go back and watch when I cry, I'll cry for just a few minutes and then I gather myself and then like I'm really good after that. Even though I'm not really good, it's the same thing. And I wanted to address Lene. I don't watch him either, but I don't watch him because he bores me. I don't watch him because he triggers me that badly. I cannot stand the sound of that man's voice. It is so dripping with narcissism and psychopathy that it takes me back to a relationship that I was in. And I cannot, I tried a couple times because of like a couple things he watched, but that is a huge trigger for me. And I don't even like even saying his name, to be honest, but he doesn't bore
Yep.
me. He triggers me to no end.
Wow.
Yeah.
I only saw him once on an interview and I had to turn it off. I can't even remember what channel it was. Like I took it that far out of my brain.
Yeah. And I like what she says too. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You know,
Yeah.
once you see what's being done to you, even if you haven't left yet, because I think most people see and recognize something far before they leave. You know, I wasn't in a cult, but I recognized within myself that, you know, this was a bad situation and stayed for another 4 years. So, you know, I think that that's a thing too with the cults. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, but it's still a while before you leave.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. You do a lot of leaving before you leave.
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
ready to leave 2 years in, and I didn't leave until after 10 years.
Yeah.
I was a kid. So
Yeah.
my leaving was moving in with my dad.
Okay.
But this interview is bringing up emotion, and that isn't a bad thing. I don't want you like to think that this is, it just, she was talking about that shelf, and it reminded me of how much for so many years things didn't feel right and I didn't know why. And of course,
Yeah.
I'm a child, so I don't know and I don't have words.
Yeah.
And even coming out, I was an apologist for years because I
Wow.
couldn't admit of how I was raised.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then it took years of therapy to even say it was a cult.
Yeah.
And then you realize, for me, I found out about all the child abuse. And I
Ooh.
couldn't turn that off.
No.
And there's certain things in this life that are so bad to me. They're like, they fall into the unforgivable.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
was it. And then I started doing research, and then I started looking stuff up. And then, but it does kind of make me wonder how long my shelf didn't really, I guess, kind of break until I moved in with my dad. So it makes me kind of wonder what portion of my brain knew that, and it didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put words, and it just makes, I don't know.
How old were you when you moved in with your dad?
17, right before I turned 18. So
Okay.
You were in the cult the whole time?
yeah. Well, my mom, officially, the portion to really join the group happened when I was 2, but I don't know anything else.
Hmm.
And I didn't know, and she's still in the same group. My biological family, except for my dad, is in the whole group. My
Mhm.
dad was atheist. I don't think he was that initially, but he became atheist.
Mm. Mm.
And
Now,
I met a
atheist
boy.
or agnostic? Is he really atheist or is he agnostic?
He's really atheist.
He's really atheist.
And
Okay.
so when we were talking about the shelter, where we were growing up, my dad took us to a therapist, and that therapist was atheist as well. And I remember being in that, and this is outside of the guardian ad litem and all of that. And I remember that therapist making everything my mother's fault because my mother was in this group.
Mhm.
And while I
Mm.
look back and think, yeah, there was a lot of bad. I mean, let's be real, there was a lot of bad. But
Right.
everything wasn't bad because of that group. My dad was
Okay.
just as bad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
My dad was
Yeah.
abusive in every way to my mother.
Mhm.
Mm. Mm.
I'm sorry. Mhm.
Yeah,
Wow.
I am too.
I don't know why. I'm sorry. Actually,
Yeah,
I'm not sorry. It's
Don't
okay to cry.
apologize.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's okay. Things come up. It's amazing how one little thing will trigger emotions and things inside of you that you've got to heal and work on.
It
That
does
Are
just
you
kind of
okay?
make me wonder what part of me didn't feel right about this when I was little. How do you know that?
Yeah.
Do other kids feel that? I just didn't. It never felt right to me. I never felt
Yeah.
like I fit.
Yeah.
And I
well,
don't know, do other kids have that? Or am I just weird? I was also,
Um,
I probably was a neurodivergent too, so I'm not necessarily.
Yeah.
speaking,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead, Carol.
Oh, I don't know what else. Anyway, are you okay, Rebecca?
I am. I don't know why I feel kind of overwhelmingly sad, but
Oh,
I'm in a safe place, and so
Yeah. And to answer your question, Rebecca, yes, other kids do feel that. That's your intuition.
yeah.
Just because you can't verbalize it doesn't mean that it's not true, and everybody has that intuition. And other children do feel that. So that's not I felt this because I'm neurodivergent or I'm this or I'm that. That's a normal, healthy thing to feel. So you can be encouraged that even though you grew up in this cult, you still had normal, healthy feelings of feeling your gut
Yeah.
and feeling your intuition. As children, it's not it's a very difficult thing when you're a child, if you're not given the tools and everything like that to know how to manage and navigate all of that, what that growing up in a cult could give you. Um, but it's also very difficult.
You froze up a little bit there, Christy. If you can hear me.
Oops.
she'll be back.
Here comes
And that's
Ben
a good
Turner.
point. Yeah. I coped by hiding in books.
Yeah.
Fiction books,
Mhm.
not stuff that I was raised and supposed to read. I hid in books, which is partially why I think libraries and reading and books is so huge, because it creates a window to something else
Yeah.
Mhm.
out there.
Mhm. I can relate with that. I never really was an avid reader until this last relationship. And then this last relationship, I could go through like 40 books a year. Easy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I can relate with that. Now that I'm out, I'm having a hard time getting reading again.
Yeah. I have not been able to read. Not. I don't think I've gotten through an entire book since I got out of the cult. I picked up many, but
Mhm.
yeah. Rebecca. I hid in books too. Says one with cats. Shell. I love Stephen King, and Pup
See,
Grimmer hid
Stephen
in
King's
historical
one I
books.
can't read, but I got into like mysteries. I loved Agatha Christie, light level romance. All Pride and Prejudice is one of my favorite like books. It just
Yeah.
one of those stories. Of course, it has to have the happy ever after. Not that real life ever really works that way, because they don't tell you what happens after they get married and all the struggles they had to go through. But yeah,
Good to know, Kristen. I've been wondering if that would be a helpful thing for me. Audiobooks helped me get back into reading when I was struggling,
Okay.
Kristen. And Christy Colwell wants the link again. And Ben, we cannot see or hear you if you can see or hear us.
yeah.
There
There we
it is.
go.
Yeah, and see, Stephen King, because of how I was raised, we didn't watch TV. Not that TVs were banned, but we didn't watch TV, and I think some of this is the empath. Things like Stephen King are triggering because they're so I can't handle suspense.
Ah,
The way
yeah.
that like other people seem to be able to do. Some people can watch horror and they can do all these things and they get that it's fake. I get into the main character. And,
Yeah.
you know, I suppose that's good because I got into books and I got into the main character. And if it was a happily ever after book, it worked out quite well.
Yeah.
But I saw Pet Sematary with the guy that I had been seeing back when I was in high school. And I had nightmares for months.
No.
Like the cat.
I can't do
No.
energetically. I can't do any of that stuff. I can't do zombies, Stephen King horror. I can't. If it's too real, like energetically, man, it sends me off. Like
Oh,
I just can't do it.
I also my body, my brain doesn't make things as dark. So like I read the Harry Potter movies, but what I read was not as dark as the movies. So my brain also seems to not to filter it. And I think it's great that people can read that and love that. And I'm glad that we have lots of different authors because then there's something for everybody.
and I agree with Mischief. I've read them because I that's what the books that I'm into, Stephen King and horror and thriller mysteries, just because it reminds me that I wasn't so. It made me think that my situation wasn't so bad.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you had that.
Does make sense.
I still hate fast zombies. I think fast zombies is a complete heresy. You need slow zombies. I think
Yes. Yes.
fast zombies are it's heresy.
CK, reading is a good way to cope, CK.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be glad if and when I can get that back. That would be nice.
Going back to psychopathy, there was a few things that came up. First of all, and I get why this is the case. Psychopaths, they're usually psychopaths, and it's not their fault. I mean, they're born that way. You have two things that are like the size of almonds on the side of your head called the amygdala. In psychopaths, those typically don't work well. And that is what enables you to have feelings of compassion for other people. In empaths, those tend to be locked on, a little more and more active, and whatnot. But the problem comes in that, okay, so it's not their fault, but it's going to be a destructive relationship. You have to take care of yourself. Feeling sorry for somebody who will destroy you is codependent. That is and that's always something to keep in mind. But one of the best examples I've heard of the way a psychopath, the way they can only mimic things was who was it who said it? I think it may have been Scott Rouse. He's one of the behavior. It may have been him. There was this person and they were dealing with the psychopath, and it's before they knew this person was. And they walked into a restaurant and they were just mad about taxes. They're saying, oh my gosh, it's tax time. And they were expressing how much outrage. They're like, oh my gosh, I have to do this and this and this. And he was just expressing all this. It was over the top, he admitted, this over the top outrage. Okay. Well, then the next day he walked into the same place and he heard the exact same thing, word per word, that his rant. And he heard the guy he was with saying that, and he was expressing everything. But that's the way it is with psychopaths. They do not have these feelings themselves. So what they do is they study it in others. And a lot of times psychopaths are attracted to empaths because they get that deep feeling from them. And you will have that. And a lot of times it's called a dyad, where Columbine, Harris, Eric Harris was a psychopath, and Dylan Klebold was somebody with really deep emotion. And so they kind of need each other. The psychopath needs the person with deep emotion to kind of fulfill a little bit of a need they have, because they just, inside they are just flat.
Yeah.
And, and it's the reason why Dylan Klebold was a little better of an act. It's supposed to be they did one of these stupid little tapes that they had where he's supposed to be acting outraged. His acting was much more natural versus the psychopath of Harris. His just looked silly because he did not know what that really is. I mean, all he could do is think of movies and stuff. And the thing is, you just don't mimic stuff that well. To really practice, a psychopath has to, will sit in a mirror and they will play back in their head how you acted when they saw you. And another great description was like over in New Orleans, this happened where a psychopath walked past the scene of it was a hit and run, and there's a child dying on the side of the road, and everybody's crying, the mother's crying, all this other stuff, and the psychopath just walks by and like, lemon chicken. That's what I want. I want lemon chicken. And that is, and it's not, the thing is, it's not that they're trying to be evil. It's just that is their capacity. But the thing is, even though it's not their fault, you do not want people like that in your life, at least not on a personal relationship. Maybe in the workplace, you have to far remove yourself from them. You can deal with them. And I think there was a study, it says in somebody's lifetime, they will run into 20 psychopaths in their lifetime. And it's just, a lot of them are normal functioning members of society. They tend to attract a business where they can, because they don't have any of the same emotional triggers and things like that dragging them down. They will tend to rise in places where somebody will need to speak their mind and they'll need to say the unpopular thing. So they'll tend to attract towards management scale of business. But the thing is, you still have to take care of yourself, and it's always remembering that even though it's not their fault, you really don't want to get caught up in a personal relationship with them, especially if you're an empath or somebody with deep emotion. That is just,
and
that was all I had to say.
Scary. It's very scary when you see that. Like when you really realize, like, there is nothing more scary. And I was going to say too, pay attention to their emotional responses, because they're going to be inappropriate. They're going to laugh at inappropriate times, or be sad at inappropriate times, or just have no emotion whatsoever. And it's very jarring. And they do, and I think I'm glad that she brought up the codependent thing, because we talk a lot about narcissist and empath, but that can turn into a very, very codependent relationship really easily. And that is a very big thing as well. Not everybody's a narcissist running around out there, but I think the more that you're aware of these traits, then the safer you can be, whether it's in a cult situation or a romantic relationship or whatever. But you never realize it at the beginning. And so if you're in any of these, or you have been, don't beat yourself up, because you're going to be a while into it before it really starts showing its head. And then there's even a lot longer before you actually are to the point where you can leave, because a lot of times your resources are hijacked, your emotions are hijacked, you're disconnected, you're isolated. There's a lot that goes on, and and being an empathetic person is hard when you see something like that. But what you have to remember is, people that are truly psychopaths or sociopaths, you cannot help them, and you cannot, and this is just true across the board, you cannot change somebody. Don't go into something thinking, I can change this person, because you won't. Not unless that person is healthy and wants to make changes, and they they realize, you can help me grow and be a better person. Hopefully we all have healthy relationships where people change and grow, because we've inspired them to change and grow, and they've inspired us. But it's a messy cycle.
And psychopaths and narcissists both, they will tend, at least destructive ones, they will tend to use love bombing, and that is feeding that is feeding a need that we all have. You know, it's part of the whole Maslow's pyramid, Maslow's, whatever. You know, you all want social acceptance and, you know, belonging and all that. And they know that. And that's why cults will, they will love bomb on you like crazy. Oh, but you're special. Let me tell you how special you are. And that's the kind of stuff where it's very hard to be discerning. But the thing that will get you is the fact that you typically run to religious groups, or, you know, what would be cults, when you're in a time of need anyway. So you have that wanting already, and then you go to this group, they give you that, and then on top of it they give, oh, but you're special, this is why this happened to you, you're special, and you're just such a great person, you care so much, and they just feed that. And it is so easy, so very easy. I've been a part of a group that did that online even, and it was one of these things, it's like, wait a minute, why, if I do this, why am I getting a reaction that's, you know, positive, but why am I getting a reaction that's so out of scale positive with, you know, like, I realize we're all hard on ourselves, but it's like when you do something small and you get back, oh, that was so great of you, oh, that, it's like, wait a minute, you know, it's like this, you know, kind of, you know, make a note of it. And it's like, does this happen often? And then you can start to realize, okay, I'm being love bombed. Now, you know, that doesn't necessarily make it would be dishonest, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's necessarily for ulterior motives. Maybe they're just trying, maybe somebody's unskilled who's trying to give you a social need, but typically it's a red flag. It's always something to keep a watch out for. And it's one of the things that cults, but for a psychopath to actually be diagnosed as such, it takes a medical diagnosis. However, there is a doctor, I think it was Robert Hare in 91. He came up with this list that's used, and you can go ahead and Google it. It'd be called the HARE checklist. And there's a checklist online that you can just, and it's not the same as a medical diagnosis or anything like that, but it's just something it can help you in dealing with, you know, is this person a psychopath or not? That's all I have. Just wanted to get that out while I was thinking of it.
I wonder what causes the amygdala to be, you know, affected in such a way that that's the state of a person.
Well,
you know,
and the stuff I've heard, and that was that you're pretty much born that way, or that you're going to, and people will use the term sociopath. There really is no, well, a lot of times when people say sociopath, they mean somebody who's learned this behavior, like somebody in the Middle East, who they see people beaten to death every day. They slowly, their feelings about other people will just be washed away. And then, you know, and ultimately it may lead to the same thing. You're dealing with somebody who has absolutely no regard for other people. So, you know. So
sad.
It's you know, a rose by any other name. You know, you're still dealing with somebody who's destructive. If it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, you know, probably chances are it's a psychopath. So.
Well, and it's no different than somebody who is, I mean, you know, what makes somebody be born with bipolar disorder or depression? It's just there's something, you know, in your brain that, you know, whatever. And it again, going back to what Ben said, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means it developed differently. But again, there's a huge difference between, just to be clear, somebody who's bipolar or with depression and a psychopath. I'm not, you know, but there's a lot of things like that that just happen. And, you know, I think that it's, I mean, to me, I just think, could you imagine being the parent of that child?
Yeah.
You know, like,
I think it's really important what Christy said, like, because a lot of times we'll go into relationships like, oh, but I can fix this person.
I did that with my first husband.
Yeah, that's like,
sure did.
it's one thing that Dr. Phil says that I actually do like. How's that working for you? Because that's, yeah, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah. Well, it's true. It's true. And it just, again, it goes to show that people show up in so many different ways. And I just want to encourage to everybody, we talk a lot about things that really truly are actual medical diagnoses. So please be mindful when you're going around. There's a huge difference between a diagnosed narcissist and someone with narcissistic tendencies. And so be mindful when you're talking about that it's really, I just don't want anybody to get in trouble because for slander. What I mean, like, just
Well, I don't think we've mentioned any names.
no.
Though
What I'm
when
saying is,
I
just be careful about saying this person isn't like for me.
Yeah, and I can't go into court when I actually get that all done and say that my ex-landlady was a narcissist. I have to say she behaved this way.
Yeah.
The judge will put whatever with that.
Yeah. Just a little disclaimer there. I know we all know it, but just
that is
Carol
important.
doesn't get a ding on her channel or something.
Yes, well, yeah, in our litigious society, you can never be too careful.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Right.
Yeah. Well, in order for it to be slander, it has to be untrue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or defamatory, it has to be untrue.
And I do like Stephen Hassan says a cult is defined by many things, but a lot of time is the bite model, the behavioral control, information control, thought control, and emotional control.
Mm-hmm.
And I utilize those 4 things for why I say I was born and raised in a cult.
Sure. Yeah.
Because they do all of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really a good model to use, because some people, I mean, there's some definitions of cult, and like, well, any group that has any sort of special communication or any sort of dress, well, using those two, anybody who's a part of a dojo would be in a cult. Working at Wendy's, I need a number 20, no fries, and you're dressed in your outfit, be a cult. Although maybe that is a cult. I think of that.
Well, I've heard, and I can't remember if it was in an interview with Stephen Hassan, but it was along the lines of that we should be in lots of cults. So like I could be in my quilting cult, and I could, be in this reading, Pride and Prejudice cult. You could be in all of these different things. Sure. But the more that you are in, the more groups you're in, the more the less isolated, and so the more things that kind of temper it. And then one of the other things I've also described is what happens to you when you leave is a really good definer.
Yeah, and and it's even in the name, or not in the name, but in the book, the bite model. What you're trying to avoid is systems of authoritarian control. That's where you run to. They have the information control, the thought control, and all. Yeah, it's amazing when you go through that, keeping some stuff in mind. You go through that checklist, like, wow, this checks this off, this. It's like, wow, hey, that's a bad system. You don't want to be a part of it, right. and it'd be like dealing with a psychopath or something like that. You can't fix it. But it's only got this a little bit wrong. I know it. How's that going to work for you?
Yeah. And I just wanted to say, Pup Groomer, I'm glad your mom's getting treatment. But it's got to be difficult, when you're living with somebody who's diagnosed as anything, that's got to be a difficult thing to do, And I have complete respect for everybody who really, who's dealing with that. And I've seen Seventh said
she's not dealing with it, apparently, though. It's been years since she's gotten proper treatment for it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought
That's
it said
okay.
it's been years and she's gotten proper treatment. Well, I mean, even at that, it's difficult, I would imagine, for, anyone who's dealing with someone who's dealing with a bipolar diagnosis or a narcissistic diagnosis or whatever diagnosis you have, those are real things to deal with, and they have their own set of challenges, and it is difficult, and my heart goes out to everybody that's dealing with that, because it's not an easy thing, especially if that person is not being treated properly.
Oh yeah.
I can imagine that's got to be a lot worse. Or
Yeah.
not worse, a lot more challenging. Let me put it that way. I don't know that it's worse, just more challenging.
Yeah.
Miss Chief or Chief. Yeah,
Mischief.
same thing. Mischief. Oh, that's great. Yes. Okay. I finally got that.
Yeah.
Unmedicated bipolar and refusal to acknowledge or get medical help in my case. Oh,
Yeah.
That's hard.
yeah.
Mhm.
I understand that.
Mhm. Mhm.
It can be
How,
scary.
how old is your son? Oh, actually, you probably don't want to mention it. But yeah, to deal with a sibling or a son or daughter who's been bipolar, that would take so much energy. My
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think it takes energy all around, because you're the one dealing with it and trying to cope, whether you're coping well or not, you're trying to cope, or you're the people in that person's life trying to, manage and navigate that.
Mhm.
I think it's so sad,
Mhm.
because it's hard for everybody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I just, I
Mhm.
feel for anyone who has to,
Yeah.
well, all of us. What am I saying? We're all going through something in some sort.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just,
Yeah.
I just wish it wasn't that way. Okay,
Right.
this is
Yeah.
the
Idealization. Is
Oh
that
my
right?
that's the
God.
part of me that is susceptible to a cult.
Well,
Being idealist, in other
I just
words.
want it to be better for everybody.
Mhm.
and the thing is, though, with these close relationships where these people are bipolar, that's worth your energy. You can affect change. You
Yeah.
going through with medical and of course counseling and things like that. That is, unlike dealing with a narcissist or a psychopath, that is a worthy endeavor
Yeah.
of your time and energy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
they're
Because
worthy and deserving of your love and time and energy too, in that, because bipolar depression, that's all very different than psychopathy, I mean,
yeah.
it's miles apart, you know. But I think it's important to be here for people who are dealing with that too, whether it's treated or untreated, they have their own um, you know, um their own challenges, and some people can manage untreated and some people can't. I have two friends, both of which are bipolar. One manages very, very well untreated. She's sorted it out in herself, and she
Hmm.
knows when she's starting to slip, and she knows what she needs to do, and she reaches out. The other one absolutely cannot be unmedicated.
Hmm.
Cannot. Life just goes
Sure.
way too bad for her. And after the last thing, she's like, I will never go off my meds again. I will never not go to counseling. I will never not do any of that. So I think, it's personal too. So even in that instance where I've known both of these people, over 30, 32 years,
Hmm.
um, and one is I've known 40 years.
Wow.
It's you see it, but and I think it's how you manage. And I think, you know, um like I said, my one friend would love to not have to take medication every day, but that's just not a
Yeah.
reality for her life. But my other friend does just fine without it. And she'll
Mhm.
call and she'll be like, okay,
Yeah.
help me out. But again, I know there's varying degrees in that too. So I'm sure one's probably a little less and one might be a little more. There's different, things there.
Sure.
But,
Mhm.
it's still a reality,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
For anybody that
I think most of us with any chronic condition wish we didn't have to take meds
yeah,
for it.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
my depression, anxiety, I may have to take meds for the rest of my life.
mhm, mhm,
And I really don't like that that's the reality.
yeah,
But you can't change or deal with what you don't acknowledge.
Yeah.
Well, and in some situations, like, my oldest daughter with her anxiety and everything and her OCD, it makes her life so much more difficult when she doesn't take her meds. It just makes life easier. I mean, it's like she tells me, it's a pain to remember to take them, but when I don't, it's so much worse. And and so that's when I say to her, I don't understand what that's like every day, but I understand you not wanting your life to be worse, so
Yeah.
and Pup Groomer said the equation changes when a person purposely goes out of their way to cause pain, stress, and anxiety. That's where I had to draw the line. And that is very healthy of you.
Yeah.
That is
Yes. Yeah.
very healthy of you. Healthy boundaries, healthy guidelines, respecting your own energy. I'm so proud of you to do that, because that can be very difficult depending on who that person was.
Yeah.
And, and so that is amazing to set those boundaries and to see
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
some people go through their entire lives in that,
Yeah.
and they
Ever.
never get out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so
Mm.
sorry.
200% are unmedicated. I wish I could have helped and felt guilty that I hadn't. Oh, it's such a helpless thing when it's somebody you love, because
Yeah.
there's not a lot that you can do other than guide them to where they can get the help they need. And they have to be willing. I wasn't willing for a long time.
Mhm.
And hindsight is 2020, they
Yeah.
say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy to tell and see, okay, somebody was going through this at that moment, and it's so hard. I send you lots of hugs,
Mhm.
lots of support.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to tell after the fact. It's so hard in the moment.
Mhm.
Well, yeah.
Seven.
And you have to have the ability too. I mean, a lot of times you don't know what to do. If you
That's
don't know
it.
about it.
It's a very helpless feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Steve, seventh son, is getting off his Dilaudid pump. That's amazing. Are you okay?
Yeah.
What is that, if I may ask?
It has to do with pain management. I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
Isn't that right? Do I have that right? Seventh son?
Yeah, Dilaudid it's a pretty heavy duty pain medication, and he's probably got a pump inserted, and it either disperses the medication every so often, or he can push a thing. But yeah, Dilaudid is not a little, it's not a little thing to
that's
get off of
awesome.
Dilaudid. It's a pretty intense pain med.
Okay.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a great thing. It'll um do you have a time frame for it, seventh? Like your doctor, like how long they're gonna step you down, or what that's gonna look like for you? I'm very excited for you. That's amazing to get off of that, Um, let's see.
Yeah, I'm glad you got your boundaries well defined and you're prepared to defend them. That's
Yeah.
good. Pup groomer. I love my mom, but she's not healthy for me and my family. For her and I to have a relationship, I love myself, my hubby, and my kids more than the fighting and the pain she causes.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. And it is sad. It is sad when you have to, get out of a family member's life, but sometimes that's the only thing to do to be healthy. Every 2 weeks, I can go down 15%. Okay, so
And Lene brought up that people promise they will change and most don't.
yeah,
That's an unfortunate reality a lot of times.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, and the positive side of that is when you express something that someone needs to change, and then they do it. It might take them a little while to figure out how to do it. It might not happen overnight, but when you slowly start to see those changes, then that can be positive. So I do think people can change little things if they want to. I think they can make big changes if they want to. I just think that you can't, it's like you can't lead a horse to water. If you stick their head under the water, you're going to drown the horse, you know. So I don't want to be completely negative either and be like, no one's ever going to change. No, if somebody has the ability and the desire and the motivation to do it, they can. It's just they change because they want to.
Yeah.
And yeah. Mischief, yes.
Yeah.
When it's a family member, a parent, a child, it is so difficult. And and think about it, you don't want to see that. You don't want to see that your mom, your dad, or your child is really that way. And I think it's probably one of the hardest disconnects, truthfully, and the most painful one. It's like handing somebody an atomic bomb and being like, here, let me blow
Yeah.
up your world. Let me
Yeah.
let me tell you this. Let me tell you this thing I know to be true about your mother, your father, your son, your daughter, and I expect you to fix it right now. Like, a lot of times you have to hold that bomb close to your heart and just be there for that person when they realize it.
Yeah.
And thanks, Henny, for including that, because I'm
Yeah.
sure I've heard her talk about it. I just couldn't
Yeah.
remember. So I took a
Yeah.
screenshot so I can write it
Yes.
down.
Yeah. Let me put that up here. Dr. Romani taught me the deep tool in combating narcissistic abuse. D, don't defend. E, don't explain. E, don't engage. P, don't personalize, which is really tricky because that's the whole goal, is to get
Yeah.
you to personalize. Take off what that person and what they're up to, making you think dwell on yourself and how messed up you are.
Yeah. I had to work really hard not to explain my actions or my choices or my decisions. And for me, that's the one thing that I worked on the most, was just don't explain. I
Yeah.
don't explain. And and so maybe if all of those are difficult for you to do, maybe pick one that's the most important to you right now and work on that. And then you can go to the next one. You don't have to try to do them all at once if that's a little overwhelming for you. Um, or pick one that, feels right, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Again, little bite-sized pieces help a lot in your recovery. When you look at it in this huge overarching, it's very different when you're the mouse in the field. Like, you're so focused on every little thing and what's going to get me and stuff like that, versus when you're the eagle up in the sky and you can see the big picture. And
Yeah.
then, you can see the different things and you can be like, oh, there's water over there, or there's, food over here, or there's rest over here. And so then you can choose, what is it I need right now? Well, I need water. So then you go over there. You don't have to do all of those things at once. So when you have a broader picture of it, then you're able to kind of, dial it down to more attainable pieces.
Okay. Yeah,
What
that makes
helps
a ton
for
of
me.
sense.
Yeah, I mean, that
Yeah.
helps for me. That might not be everybody's thing, but
I think my problem is I'll get overwhelmed really easily. And then once I'm able to at least work through that overwhelm a little bit, that's exactly what works. When I'm able to write a list and then break down even just the specific point on the list. Okay, I'm breaking it down into this many points. These points I can work on individually.
yeah,
But I have to get past the overwhelm first.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and that can be a difficult thing.
Yeah.
Pup groomer. I spoke to my dad yesterday to give him the heads up that I'm going to be sharing. I'm going to share my story soon. And he shared some information with me that concretes that I won't be allowing her back into my life, sadly. Well, that sucks.
Yeah. But
But
Boomer, I support you.
not as bad as trying to make that work when it's never going to work work out for you
Mm-hmm.
ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm proud of you for, you know, getting to a place where you can share your story. That's a very powerful thing, to kind of let those chains loose. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you found out some things, but hopefully sharing your story will feel like that weight has lifted, and I'm excited for you for that.
Yeah. I'm glad that deep therapy has helped you, Henny. Yeah, it helped. It all helped. Yes, it really helped me when dealing with my narcissistic mother. The older she gets, the worse her behavior. Going deep, setting boundaries, therapy, journaling, peer help. It all helps when having to survive. Yeah. And seventh son, I am sorry that you're having to deal with the pain, but I'm very proud of you for getting off of that pump.
Yes.
That's wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I think that applies to a lot of us. Seventh, pain of different kinds, physical, mental, and spiritual, says Mischief. Easy to do when you're in pain, eh? Yeah, not so much. Yeah. Well, what do you guys think? Has everybody had a meeting or?
Oh, it's snowing here. Oh man, you guys can just keep it. Keep it. I don't want it. You guys keep
I'm
your
hoping
snow.
you take it all. We just got
You-
a foot and
you
a half.
Push it that way. Push it that way.
Please send it
It
to
got
me.
dusting here.
I would
in
love.
Minnesota.
We have not had any snow. Not any
None.
snow at all. It's raining. It's like in the in the 30s. No snow. I would love it. Please send it all here. Send me a blizzard. I would love it. Everybody put your minds together.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll manifest it over to you, because it really wasn't a foot and a half, but like a foot of snow in 24 hours. I'm done. I'm
Could
done.
you imagine
Christy,
though
you're-
what that does to the middle of the country? Like in Minnesota, a foot of snow, we plow it out. The roads are fine. We've got all the stuff. Further south, you get a foot of snow, everything stops.
I'm good with it. I'm good with it. I want to see it snowing. I'm fine with everything stopping. That's great. Give me some.
Well, be specific, because your husband's going to be having to drive in some stuff,
Yeah.
So
Well,
tell it
let
to
him have it get here before he gets here, and then be gone, or after he leaves, and he's already in Baltimore. I would love to have some snow. So
Or do you want it to come right after he arrives so that he's snowed in for a week and he's stuck and you can hang
I
out?
actually don't want that. No, he's got to get to this job.
are
I don't
you,
want it snowed in for a week.
Okay.
Christy? Are you in Kentucky?
Yes.
Why do you have Kentucky Fried Chicken, not Kentucky Fried Cow? That is something. It still works. KFC. Why can't you have Kentucky Fried Cow?
Let me tell you, everything is fried in Kentucky. Hence why Christy got up to 142 pounds. Everything is fried. Yeah.
Lene was wanting to know where Pup Groomer 20 was going to be sharing her story, and she says, I'm not sure yet. I still want to give my brother a heads up before I do. Right on.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you.
Yeah, let us know. I would love to support you when you share your story.
Yeah, definitely. Get one of the
And
mods
Carol,
to link up.
I was going to say thank you for sharing this, because I don't want to create a channel. And I don't want to, there's a lot I don't feel necessarily safe sharing on the internet yet, but nobody knows really I'm here unless you are on this group. People don't know I'm here. So thank you.
Yeah.
It feels a little safer. And then of course I know you guys, and you guys are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's safe to be here.
Thanks, you guys, so much. Well, what do you think? Have we had a meeting, y'all?
I think so. Yeah.
Do you mind leading us in a box breathing and maybe even meditation?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, I like doing the meditations at the end, because what I try to do is whatever we've talked about throughout the entirety of the meeting, I try to kind of wrap it up in a nice little bow at the end. So
Yeah.
if somebody's needing their energies to be grounded or whatever, we could start the meeting off with maybe some box breathing. But I really like ending on a meditation, because I do try to like take all of the things that we've talked about and allow us to release it in some way. So I just wanted to kind of put that out for everybody, however you feel about that. But yeah, let's do some box breathing and a little meditation and be done. So go ahead and get loose, shake it out, do the Taylor Swift thing. All right, go ahead and close your eyes and drop into your heart space, whether that's putting your hand on your heart or imagining a small version of yourself going into your heart center, sitting in the love that you have for yourself. We're going to go ahead and do four box breaths today. We're going to breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, and release until all the air is out of our lungs. Go ahead and breathe in, hold, and exhale. Breathe in, hold, and exhale. Breathe in, hold, and exhale. And last one. Breathe in, hold, and exhale. And sit for just a moment with your breath, feeling your chest rise and fall. In this meditation, I want you to imagine all of us gathered around a nice, big, beautiful table, sitting in a cozy cabin or a big, beautiful mansion or out on the beach, whatever feels safest and most comfortable for you. And as we sit around this table, each one of us having shared something deep and personal with the others, we take a moment to send out gratitude for the safe space that we have to share and be thankful. Imagine you going to each and every person here, smiling warmly, and giving them just a word of encouragement. And I want you to imagine receiving that encouragement as well. Feeling lighter and more positive about the safe place that you're at. We all take a moment and hold hands, just sitting in the friendship, safety, and nurturing love of this beautiful group that we've created. We all rise from the table and we walk out the door and we gather outside. And as we watch the sunset go down on these things that we've talked about today, we put our arms around each other's waist and we smile, knowing that this is our chosen tribe and our chosen family, and that of all the places in the world, this is a safe and loving space, even when it feels like there aren't any others there. When you are ready, take a moment and open your eyes. All right. I made it through it without coughing.
And counted right on the box press this time.
Yes, I did not do that yesterday. Forgot how to count.
And then I have to show you the cuteness.
Oh,
Yes.
My hand her face is buried in my hand so that her eyes are protected from the light. And she's obviously was enjoying your meditation too, because in the middle of the meditation, she was making these little noises. She's sleeping, obviously sleeping. She loved your meditation. She stopped as soon as you were done.
Awesome. Well, you guys have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow.
Bye. Good night, guys. I'm off too.
Love to everyone and hugs and support. Good night, all.
Good night. You guys are awesome. This is a wonderful, wonderful community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the support that we're able to give each other. That's just, it's a beautiful thing. And I thank God for you every day. And I hope to see you next meeting and hope you're well. And until then, peace, y'all.